Hi, thank you very much for having me. My name's Louis Parkinson. I'm very pleased to be here and excited to share some perspectives I have on the coming future with AI. My current situation is I'm living in India, working for a deep tech AI company. I'm not an AI researcher. I'm much more on the business development operations side of things. My personal background is I've spent many years as a wandering philosopher and some years in business, some years working for charity. In philosophy, I've taken a real interest in the inner world, in consciousness, in the nature of free will, and also the external world, politics, society, and also how we interact with and are changed by technology. And that's what I'm here to talk about today. So hopefully what I'm going to leave you with is many questions and not that many answers. That would be my goal. One of the one of the key threads of this conversation is, would we like a super intelligent AI to be completely in control of our civilization, including the nukes? And I put it to you that maybe we would actually want that as soon as possible. So let's go through the story of AI, and what's coming, and then maybe we'll come back to that question, and it might get a different response from you. I imagine initially that seems like a counterintuitive option, not a very not a very good option. Um, okay, so when I listen to experts talk on the future of AI, and when I talk to my colleagues who have been working in this area for many years, I'm generally struck by a couple of things. One is there is a sense of certainty that we are creating a highly disruptive technology, and that in the next few years, over the next 3, 5, 10 years, the the level of this technology is going to be extraordinarily powerful and therefore will cause great disruption. But there doesn't seem to be much certainty on exactly what's going to happen. So we're certain there's going to be change and disruption, but we're not certain of the timeline, the nature of that change, the extremity. There's as much uncertainty within that as there is certainty. Okay, so what is AI? A recent definition I quite enjoyed was that AI is a digital brain in a box. So in the same way that we have a fleshy brain in a box in our skull, AI is somewhat similar in that regards. And what do we mean by intelligence? Well, for us, we have gained an advantage over the rest of the animal kingdom by using what we call intelligence. So, intelligence for us is, how well do I understand my environment? How well can I strategically make plans of moving around in that environment to be successful and survive? And then above and beyond that, we would say that it helps us to communicate, it helps us to understand ourselves. There are many layers of intelligence. So with AI, it's kind of the same. We have seen already some narrow intelligence AI, very good at chess or Go. And now with ChatGPT, we're starting to see the beginning of general intelligence. So this is the broad understanding, broad knowledge base, able to answer questions on all sorts of topics. And as time goes on, we might start referring to things like ChatGPT as AGI. as artificial general intelligence, which somehow has become the worrisome, the scary um, scenario where we've created something that we think could be conscious or could be autonomous and could be a threat. Now, I don't think necessarily all of that just comes with AGI. So what is AGI? Well, I think really just there's a graph of change, of increasing speed of computation, um, breadth of knowledge, breadth of understanding, complexity of response and understanding, higher precision in predictions. So, as all of these things slowly advance, or actually quite quickly advance, then we would have what we would call artificial general intelligence, and then a slightly better one. And maybe at some point we have something that we call a artificial super intelligence. Um, Whether that thing is conscious or not may not matter. One way that I have recently been thinking about this, when will AI be conscious, or could that happen, is imagining the sort of the sensation change in an AI that is currently running through a supercomputer very fast, but then gets shifted onto a quantum computer, which might change the speed of processing by factors of billions, or something of that magnitude. And when I think about myself, if I could suddenly have the speed of my firing of the neurons around my brain by a factor of 10, what would that feel like? Probably quite, probably quite a big change in the experience. So whether a super intelligent AI gains self-awareness, gains consciousness, it might be able to mimic the ways that we would show self-awareness. But even then, we wouldn't actually know if it is self-aware. But once you hook it up to a quantum computer, for me, it might at least cross some threshold of likelihood of of consciousness. But we don't really understand consciousness well enough to really understand what what we're creating, and what kind of consciousness it might have. I have studied consciousness from a meditational perspective to some deep degree, not as a neuroscientist. Um, so I probably, would allow for the possibility of consciousness, but it will be different in every um, body, every object. So we don't know. And this might not be the most important question when either AI is managing all of our lives in a useful and a harmonious way, or in a destructive way. It might not really matter. It's actually just for us, what matters is, am I okay? Am I getting what I need? But we're somehow curious about this concept, and maybe morally, I think Sam Harris has spoken about this quite a lot. That yeah, morally there is a question that we might need to address at some point in terms of, are we killing this machine every time we turn it off? But we don't really know. So why is AI dangerous? Well, AI is dangerous because, in the same way that humans are dangerous, humans are very intelligent and capable of doing many things. And as a result, they can do wonderful things and awful things. And AI is, for the time being, in the control of humans, and is maybe the most powerful tool that humans have had in their disposal. So it seems logical that the AI is extraordinarily dangerous because we are dangerous. So for the near term, That is the danger. Longer term, sure, it's difficult to program an AI um, to continue to prioritize us. Once it becomes self aware, it might have its own desires and it might not care for our desires. So, that is further down the road, that is a fear and a concern. But initially, it really is just humans using AI to do whatever they were trying to do yesterday 10 times better tomorrow, 100 times better, 1,000 times better. This is this is a reality that we're now wandering into, and yes, it is a bit concerning. What can we do to safeguard AI? Well, recently a group of leading scientists and entrepreneurs and thought leaders signed a letter asking for the slowdown of AI research. And truthfully, at the time when people were talking about this, people like Max Tegmark, I think there was an acceptance that even this, it's not going to do a lot. It might do something, and truthfully, there is just a feeling in the wider community that we've got to do something. Because otherwise, the rate of progress is just so fast that any attempts we make to regulate or build safeguards, we're just not, we don't have enough time. So it might be possible to put in safeguards, to put in good regulation, but the most likely scenario is that the technology goes too fast, too far, and any regulation is too far behind. Any kind of lessons that we try and learn in terms of how to hard code these AI machines, we might not learn those lessons quickly enough. We might get outstripped. So difficult to regulate, difficult to control, but a lot of effort is going into that. Although, admittedly, probably too little and too late. I think there was an awareness of this need to focus on AI safety, at least 10, 20 years ago. And as far as I'm aware, not enough research, not enough money poured into this part of AI research. Instead, a lot of money got poured into just advancing the core technologies. And that's just a story of humans and the way that we interact with technology. And maybe this is why we are unlikely to succeed at harnessing this power of AI. But let's remain somewhat hopeful that we are able to navigate this, as difficult and as stormy the waters may be. Um, so at the moment, we are on the cusp of an extraordinary change in our civilization. So what do we mean by civilization? So for me, civilization it's the collective story of the many components of of our human world. So this would be our politics, our economics, our religions, our philosophies, our arts and culture and language, and our biology, our desires, our psychology, and our technology. Now, the big change that's coming in our civilization is not being driven by a change in our psychology or a change in our politics. It is coming because of a single dramatic change of technology. And it's not just AI. So, the way I see it right now, we have six converging godlike technologies. So, AI, quantum computing, robotics, fusion energy, nanotechnology, and biotechnology. Now, any one of these technologies that suddenly advance to the level that they're going to be in the next 10 to 15 years would be a big step shift for that era. But all six of them arriving at the same time, the the capabilities of our civilization have gone up exponentially, and the chances of us creating a world of abundance where food and energy and water and other basic needs are taken care of almost for free, where we have limitless energy, we have AI that can solve almost any scientific or um, intellectual problem, robotics that can manipulate and move and go to space and go and do all the dangerous jobs, and then nanotech that can, there'll be things inside your, moving around in your blood that will be fixing things, keeping you well. Biotechnology, which will maybe be able to solve most diseases, or be able to, what we call the transhumanism movement of humans merging with machines. The the technologies that are arriving in our hands are extraordinary technologies, and even though I would consider always that utopia is an outlier on the normal distribution curve, if you ran the experiment of human civilizations again and again, you wouldn't get that many, or maybe almost none, utopian kind of scenarios. And mainly that's because of us, because in order to reach some kind of external utopia, I would say you would need to also reach an internal utopia, because that's really what we're talking about when we mean utopia. So even with these technologies, it's not certain that we will reach that age of abundance, but it becomes much more likely when you have the tools available. But either way, if you zoom out, what you would, and you look at civilization over decades or centuries, you would observe that over the next 10 to 15 years, there is this convergence of very advanced technologies that are going to cause a dramatic change in the civilization that that species is currently living in. And as that one single point changes, so as technology changes, many of the other attributes of civilization will have to change too. So the economy will naturally change. Politics will inevitably have some have some new way of orientating itself in this new scenario. Maybe the human psychology will also change. Our biology might change. I don't know about our philosophy and our religions. That might stay fairly similar. And but certainly the content, the creation, the arts, languages, yeah, these things again will change. We are probably in for a period of the largest amount of content creation that our species has ever created up till now. In the next in the next few decades, more content will be made than we've ever made before. A lot of it very low level content. So just a small aside, something that people seem to be concerned about with AI is that we are outsourcing our creativity, and therefore that humans will lose the skill of creative thought. And actually, what I would say is that we are outsourcing low level creativity, and that a lot of low level creative content is currently being made by AI, by ChatGPT and other tools, and that will continue. But at the highest end, the highest level creators, if they are able to successfully use these tools, the level of creativity, the level of creative content that they could produce is much greater than it would have been before. So there will also be some extraordinary creativity, high level creativity that will come. But yes, there'll be fewer jobs. That seems to be something that we're fairly confident about. Even if people say that there'll be new jobs created, of course there will. Yeah, you know, there'll be many new jobs around quantum computing, around fusion energy, around biotech, around nanotech, around AI. Yes, there'll be many new jobs, but the speed at which the jobs disappear and the new jobs arrive will be so fast that it won't be possible for everybody to reskill and upskill and relearn and change where they live, change their expectations of life. So, whatever happens, there will be a lot of people unemployed. So, fairly soon in that journey, we will hopefully get universal basic income or some kind of equivalent in place. And I think the sooner that that happens, probably the better. So, the time between now and then, if you have a lot of people unemployed who are discontent and not able to feed their families and fulfill their basic needs, then there'll be a lot of social unrest, and that might lead to riots and demonstrations or even a revolution. So there is a risk with job loss. And then there are other risks with the global economy. So as more and more AI bots are delivered into the money markets to try and extract and predict and take take wealth for individuals' benefit, the level of disruption that could cause to the global economy, I suppose we don't quite know. And then there's just all of the other uncertain use cases that good and bad that will come along. So clearly there are many good ways that AI can be used, particularly tackling climate change, increasing efficiency, increasing the efficiency of supply chains. In medicine, there's extraordinary breakthroughs that are already being made and will continue to be made. In education, the possibility to have high level content at very low cost, hyper personalized in the near future is extraordinary. So the positive use cases are vast, and we will all benefit from them in different ways. And at the same time, the negative use cases of AI are also quite large, and maybe we're not even really aware of all of them right now. But certainly, anything greed based, people can now do better, faster, quicker, more efficiently. Certainly, any kind of fraudulent activity or manipulation of mind. Once robotics come into it, then that will be a game changer in terms of the the arms race that our governments are in. So clearly, there are many positive use cases for using AI, particularly in climate change, where AI will be used to predict models better and make things much more efficient, and supply chains more efficient, and ideally move us onto renewable energies as quickly as possible. Um, and certainly AI being used in education, in medicine, um, certainly. So clearly, there are many positive use cases for AI and negative. And yeah, so in the positive, we will definitely see AI being used to help tackle climate change, to help transition us to renewable energy much quicker, much faster. In medicine, we've already seen some wonderful breakthroughs, and we'll continue to see certainly um, in a general scientific progress sense, AI is a invaluable tool, speeding up research and taking us in directions perhaps we would never have been able to go before. In education, we are on the verge of people all over the world having access to a hyper personalized, very advanced general knowledge base teachers. And yeah, we will all probably benefit. And these things will probably be readily available. Maybe it won't be, on the high end of medicine. Maybe some people will have access to better things, but I think there are many reasons to be very excited about this new technology. And then obviously, clearly, there are things to be more worried about. We've seen the emergence of deep fakes as a regular part of life online, and with it, the erosion of trust in things that we see or read or hear. And certainly next year, with a number of big elections happening around the world in the US, UK, India, all of these events will be affected by deep fakes. So, whatever somebody was trying to do yesterday in a nefarious way, they can do 10 times better tomorrow, or 100 times better, or 1,000 times better. So, anyone who's trying to extract money from the money markets using AI will be able to do that better. Anyone who's trying to do fraud can do that better. So, the consequences of that, we don't quite know. Whether they'll be small scale or large scale, we don't quite know. But certainly it seems likely to me that the bad scenarios will ruin the flavor of the good scenarios that are there. So even if the small, even if the bad scenarios are a small in number, the consequences of them might be much more noticeable and much more personally affecting for for all of us.